Hi, I'm your 4th District State Representative, Matt Shea. Thank you for joining me on this legislative update. I want to take a moment to thank the hundreds of people from the 4th District who joined me on February 22nd for a telephone town hall meeting. I appreciated hearing from you and hearing about the issues on your mind. One of the issues that came up was about the use of studded tires on our highways. There's legislation actually moving through the House and Senate that would allow the use of a new technology called the tire sock. The tire sock originated overseas in Norway, and like wearing a wool sock while walking on rocks in a stream, the tire sock slides over the surface of a vehicle tire, and the special fabric provides traction on snow and ice. It literally takes 5 minutes to put all 4 on. What a great free market solution to tire chains, and it will also save our highways. Senate Bill 6112 is awaiting a vote in the House. So let's talk about the budget. We're into the final days of the scheduled 60-day session and working to negotiate a final supplemental operating budget that closes what is now a $1 billion shortfall. A temporary uptick in the state's revenue forecast helped. It means the state of Washington will be receiving nearly $2 billion more in this revenue cycle than the previous. You heard that right. We actually have more money in our coffers this year than last. So why is the state in a budget shortfall? Well, it's because our legislature continues to spend more money than it takes in. That's why I have proposed an amendment to the state constitution that would force the legislature to pass a balanced budget. Under state law currently, the governor is required to submit a balanced budget plan to the legislature, but the legislature has no requirement to pass a balanced budget. So year after year, the legislature has continued to pass budgets that virtually assure continuous shortfalls. In other words, the legislature has not controlled its spending, and that's why we have these deep budget deficits. Early in the legislative session, House Republicans began to craft a budget that would force the state to live within its means, like all of you. And we worked off the priorities of government model that was first proposed by Governor Gary Locke when the state was facing budget problems in 2002. We identified the top 3 core services of government as priorities for the budget, including education, public safety, and protecting the state's most vulnerable citizens, as defined in Article 13 of our state constitution. And then we also listened to the state Supreme Court, which ruled in McCleary versus Washington that the state's constitutional paramount duty must, quote, amply provide for the education of all Washington children as the state's first and highest priority before any other state programs or operations, end quote. House Republicans proposed to create a separate education budget, in fact, that would fund education first physically in the budget process before any other state program. Not only that, our budget proposal would fully fund levy equalization, maintain the 180-day school year, and also keep all-day kindergarten. House Democrats, however, have rejected that idea. They have proposed a budget that would delay funding to the schools until the next budget cycle. That includes a delay of levy equalization dollars, which are very important to our schools in the Spokane Valley. That's more than $400 million that would be cut from our school districts all across the state. Not only that, this budget gimmick would result in the state beginning its next budget cycle in July of 2013 about $500 million in the red, ensuring yet another shortfall. The Senate Democrats, meanwhile, have also released their budget, and it too would delay payment to schools of more than $330 million until the next budget cycle. That's not responsible budgeting, in my opinion. That's not putting education first as our state constitution requires. And although the Democrats will tell you their budgets do not rely on a general tax increase, they do increase fees substantially, which are really just tax increases, and they also force local governments to increase taxes as well. For example, the Democrats' budget would permanently reduce certain state distributions to local governments by $81.6 million, including support for criminal justice programs. Then they tell local governments, if you want that money to save your operations, we'll give you more taxing authority to offset those cuts. Large counties could increase the local sales tax by 1/10 of a cent without voter approval. Counties with fewer than 250,000 people could increase the sales tax by 2/10 of a cent. Here's another example. License fees for adult family homes in the House Democrats' budget would go from $175 a bed per year to $370 a year for each bed. During my telephone town hall meeting, several people have told me that could put them out of business. I also heard concerns from our citizens about nursing home per bed fees that would go from $11 to $19 a bed under the House Democrat budget plan. And all the while, we haven't even begun to address fraud, waste, and inefficiency in the system, like taxpayer-funded lobbyists and people living in Idaho and Oregon getting benefits in Washington. Our House Republican budget would not take advantage of our elderly or those with developmental disabilities. In fact, we prioritize this funding in the budget. I'm also concerned the House Democrat budget would reduce supervision for sex offenders by 1 year. That is unacceptable. Our House Republican budget instead makes public safety a priority for funding. We have until March 8th to pass a budget and then adjourn. While some are skeptical that we can make that deadline, I say there should be no choice. The legislature has had plenty of time to work on the budget. We've had 2 special sessions already. We don't need a third one. Let's finish the work on time. Thanks again for joining me on this legislative update. I'm your state representative, Matt Shea.